Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. If you just believe, 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 believe. Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe. Listen to your heart. 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 Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. If you just believe. 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 If you just believe.
Good evening, people. Good evening. Welcome back to another stream. Hope you're all doing okay. Hope you're all recovering from the FA Cup loss yesterday. I was just getting over it. I kind of woke up this morning and I was pretty over it. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You can't win them all, and there's plenty of factors and variables going into why we lost that game. Joe spoke well on it on his review video, so big up to all of you that showed love to that. But I was watching the parade there. I was watching the parade live on YouTube. I was deep in what was going on in the parade, and I was trying to enjoy that as much as possible. And then a bit of a Jack Gaughan bomber. And not the one that we like. It's not the here we go Erling Haaland type feeling. It's quite the polar opposite. Now look, as far as reliability goes, and as far as Manchester City journalism goes, Jack Gaughan is top tier. Do you know what I mean? He's a mouthpiece for the club. He's one of the most reliable Manchester City sources of information you're going to get on the internet and so on and so forth. So this is why we're streaming about this. Pep Guardiola expected to leave Man City next summer. I'll read it out for you. Yeah. Pep Guardiola expected to leave Man City next summer. While Man City stressed there has been no formal indication either way from Guardiola, multiple sources in the industry and Man City have openly discussed the prospect of an impending departure over recent months. Now, is this new news? No. Is there something we haven't heard before or didn't semi-expect here? No, it's not. It's just the fact that it's coming from Jack Gaughan kind of solidifies it and kind of makes it more concrete and adds more reality to the situation that Pep Guardiola is going to leave Manchester City. I know it says no formal decision has been made, but like I said, I don't think Jack Gaughan would be posting this if he didn't have some, reliable or concrete indication or has been fed something to suggest that they kind of expect Pep Guardiola to leave. Does this mean he's gone? No, it doesn't. It does not mean he's gone. I think there's a lot of things that can happen between now and Pep fully announcing that he's leaving Manchester City, like we've discussed recently, the transfer window, this upcoming transfer window. If City show a lot of ambition and try and give Pep the players he wants, it might spark a new lease of life into Pep Guardiola and say, I want to extend for a year or two. Because it's literally only a matter of hours ago. It was 2-3 days ago we were streaming saying City are hopeful of getting Pep to sign a new long-term contract. So how can it change that much in 48 odd hours? I'm not so sure. But once again, it's Jack Gaughan, who's a pretty reliable Manchester City journalist. Now, look, people, I have told you for a number of weeks that I just have a good feeling. Nothing ITK about it. Nothing. I don't know anything behind closed doors. You're not coming to the right man if you're looking for extra information on this. But I just had a good feeling that Pep would call it a day in May 2025. I still have the feeling Pep will call it a day in 2025. It's absolutely not what I want to be the case. This is not what I want to be reading on my Sunday evening. But it's where we're at. It's what Jack Gaughan posted, and I know a lot of you are, trying to call it bullshit and trying to call it waffle, and that's fair enough. And I probably would do for pretty well any other journalist. But in this situation, we're talking about the most reliable Manchester City journalist, so you do have to take it more seriously than you would for 99% of other journalists, I suppose, Joe.
What is the stages of grief, right? Stage 1, denial. This is what the chat has become. Denial. They refuse to accept it because they don't want it to happen. They refuse to accept that there's a reality that this happens because they don't want it. They don't want to believe it, which I can understand. I don't want to believe it either. But this is one of the most reliable sources when it comes to our club. He's more reliable than Romano. He's more reliable when it comes to us from Ornstein, who was the first to kind of, break this news. It was a few weeks ago now, I think, where he said the feeling that he got from inside the industry was that he was going to leave, but he didn't have any concrete evidence. Now Jack Gaughan has basically said the same thing. There's no concrete evidence to suggest either way, but the feeling from within the club, from within, the footballing industry, is that he is going to leave. That is the feeling. And I don't think it's any coincidence that all you have to do is go back about a month and you see that Tiki is supposedly also leaving in 2025. I don't think these are coincidences. I really don't. I think it's all come out for a reason. You can say it's bullshit. You don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe it. But you have to also face the music. You also have to accept reality that this will be year 9, I believe, of Pep. This will be year 9. Nobody expected him to do more than 4 or 5. You've just got to sometimes accept that this is not going to stay forever, and this may just be the first stage of gauging a reaction. Again, Jack Gaughan is a mouthpiece for the club, so whatever he says, there's a source in the club behind it. Like, there is actual evidence. So people saying that it's just waffle, it's not really waffle. He knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about. So there is a reason. Again, maybe this is just a gauge to see what the reaction is like. Set the wheels in motion, if you will, of soft launching a Pep exit so that, come the end of the season, if it does happen, at least we've had prior warning. At least we've known from the start of the season that this might be it. I think the worst thing possible that could happen, and I think it'd be really, really upsetting and possibly go down the worst, is if this news didn't come out at all and we heard nothing until the end of the season. And then at the end of the season, he said he was stepping down. That is the worst way to announce this kind of news, because it's big. It's really big, but you have to also, again, look at the situation with Klopp and Liverpool and go, you have to be smart with the actual announcement. Again, you can soft launch it. You can go to journals and have them print out various, articles saying it's believed that he's probably going to leave and all of this stuff. But you've got to be careful about actually announcing it because you don't want it to derail the season. So this may just be the first step. And sometimes you just got to accept that.
It's going to have to be a soft launch. It's going to have to be a soft launch. I mean, Klopp's one was quite abrupt, even though it happened midway through the season. It was quite abrupt. No one expected it. And maybe City are trying to do things differently. Maybe City are trying to drip feed it out to the public that Pep's probably going to leave in 2025. And it's just to get people used to the idea of Pep leaving in 2025. I do want to stress people that there's nothing concrete about this. There's nothing confirmed. There's nothing done. I mean, we can all speculate and say what's rubbish and what's true and what's fake and what's lies and what we believe till the cows come home. But there's nothing confirmed here. So there is possibility that the club between now and May 2025, although they'd probably want to be doing it, substantially sooner than that, can persuade Pep Guardiola to sign a new deal. But like I said on the stream, I was pretty objective on the stream where we spoke about the news from Mike Keegan, where he said City are hopeful of convincing Pep to sign a long-term extension, that it doesn't matter what the club want at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what the club feel or what they do. If Pep himself decides his time is up, if Pep himself decides I've done enough. I've done 9 years. I've won 6 leagues, potentially 7 next season, a treble, the Champions League. I've brought everything I was brought to do and more. If Pep decides 9 years is time, I think he has every right to say it's time. And as heartbreaking as it would be for us, that's just the reality. I think we all know that it's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable that Pep Guardiola will one day leave Manchester City Football Club. And the club are very aware of the fact that it will be earth-shattering, earth-shaking news when that does happen, because it's going to change the whole landscape of football when Pep Guardiola leaves. It's going to inject a lot of life into clubs that felt totally inferior and incapable of competing with us. It's going to change us as a club. We're going to have to look elsewhere. We're going to have to somewhat start again. Of course, we can pick up where we left off as best as possible, but you are not going to emulate and replicate what Pep Guardiola did. We're living in a period right now of just sheer euphoria. You know what I mean? You can't recreate what we have right now. So the club will be careful and will be cautious with this process. If this was one of these Twitter ITKs, if this was even your average journalist, if this was TalkSport, if this was one of these day-to-day clickbait, run-of-the-mill news platforms, I'd be sitting here saying, look, they're going to be writing this anyway. Until Pep signs an extension or he announces he's leaving, they're going to be saying this kind of shit anyway. But it's the fact that it's Jack Gaughan, people. That's the only reason we're doing this stream. It's the fact that it's Jack Gaughan. For those of you who are clued in with Manchester City journalism and the transfers every summer and just news in general to do with Manchester City, you'll know Jack Gaughan is the cream of the crop. He's as reliable as it gets. Jack Gaughan has got this information from someone reliable. Jack Gaughan has got this feeling, this inclination that Pep is leaving in 2025, and he would not be posting this article unless he was pretty damn certain there was truth to the real possibility. If there was a good chance Pep was going to leave in 2025. He does make it clear in the article. About no formal decision being made, and they're giving Pep space to make his decision. Which is the right thing to do. You can't put pressure on Pep. You can't be constantly banging on Pep Guardiola's door saying, sign the contract, and shoving a pen in his face. With someone like Pep, you simply have to just allow him the time and space in his own head to decide what's best for him. And he did speak. Pep, of course, did speak people on the pitch after the West Ham game last Saturday or last Sunday and said, I'm closer to leaving than I am staying. Was that the first sign that we should have taken on board that 2025 is the time when Pep will leave? Was that the first piece of drip-fed information that we're going to get, that Pep is going to leave in 2025? I think you're right, Joe, with the timeline in which this is going to operate. I think you'll hear more and more, if he is to leave in 2025, that is, people, you will hear more and more increasingly that City are not confident or it's looking like Pep's going to leave. I mean, it's Jack fucking Gaughan, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? It's Jack Gaughan. This ain't no mug. This ain't no bozo who doesn't know his stuff. He knows his stuff. He knows what's going on. And as you said, Joe, when Tiki said, or when we got the news, Tiki planned on leaving in the near future, you kind of put 2 and 2 together and go, that seems like a time that Pep Guardiola may decide to jump ship or to take a rest. You have to deep it, people. While we're living in this euphoria of the era of Pep Guardiola, it's very easy to get caught up in it and go, he's just going to keep going. The man's a human being. He's going to get tired. He's going to go, I've done what I've had to do. I've had amazing times, and he'll try and find the right time to leave. Many would argue the best time to leave was after the treble. You know what I mean? You've completed football in one season. Many would argue the best time to leave was after completing 4 in a row. But no, we're guaranteed a minimum of 1 more season where he could go for 5 in a row, maybe another Champions League. Maybe nothing. I don't know. But the reality is he's going to leave in the near future. So is Tiki, as been made clear. Pep and Tiki have both made it clear they're going to leave in the near future. So we have to prepare ourselves, and we can't really just shun these articles and these opinion pieces, whatever, coming from people like Jack Gaughan, when it's there for us in plain sight to see, I suppose, Joe.
Again, it just comes down to denial. Everybody does it. Everybody's gone through this stage of where they've seen something that they don't want to happen, and they've gone, no, surely not. Surely this can't happen. It just happens as a natural reaction. I'm not going to sit here and say that you can't deny it, because I'm not going to sit here and categorically say that piece of news is complete and utter horseshit, or it's complete and utter truth and he will leave. I'm not going to say either way because you can't, it's speculation. But I'm also going to sit here and say, don't ignore it. Don't just completely write it off because you don't want it to happen. These are not coincidences. Tiki deciding that there's a bit of news that he's going to leave in 2025. Then it comes out that Pep's going to leave in 2025. Or there's the feeling that he's going to leave in 2025, which correlates directly to Tiki leaving in 2025. You know, they're not coincidences. These things happen for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences. Everything is premeditated. It happens, right? So, I mean, again, like you said, Pep said it himself. He said he's closer to leaving than staying another 6-7 years. So he wasn't necessarily completely ruling out, you know, another 1, 2, 3 years, but he also wasn't ruling out the fact that he may just leave. Like, realistically, right? He has nothing to prove. He has done everything. He has won every single trophy that he can win with us. He's broke pretty well every single record that is possible to beat. He hasn't got invincible, but I don't think really many people care about that because he's got 100 points, which has never been done before. 1 4-0, which has never been done before. Domestic clean sweep, which has never been done before. Like, he has broken English football. He's got nothing left to give. And I think also I think what people don't actually realise or haven't actually spoken on a little bit is Klopp leaving has an effect on this. Klopp has been a big part of Pep's managerial career in England. He's been the guy that's pushed him to 100 points, 99 points, 98 points. He's been the guy that's pushed him on to be a better manager. He said it himself after West Ham because he was asked the question. You know, he was asked about Klopp leaving and he was like actually emotional. He was upset that he was leaving because he knows that dynamic has made him a better manager. It has. It's pushed him on to get high 90 points totals. And now that he's gone, you know, his direct competition is his former assistant manager, who hasn't hit 90 points. It's, you know, it's a different level. And he's thinking about that and going, I've done everything. My main competitor who's been with me for this entire thing has gone. You know, my main competitor now is my former assistant. Maybe it's time to hand over the reins. I mean, look at this season. Look at the signings we made. They weren't really the signings that we needed to make. It was a transitional season. Again, it all comes down to circumstances. He's not for sure gone, like you said. He can have his mind swayed. There's a lot of things can happen. There's a lot of things can happen. He's still got to go to Abu Dhabi and meet with the Sheikh, meet with Khaldoon, have that meeting. There's still things that can happen that this is not a foregone conclusion. But I would still expect the situation in where he lives. I think it was Jack Lee who was saying it in the chat before. If it gets to Christmas and he's not signed, then you face the reality of he's probably gone. Like, at that point, he's gone.
You know, I said this to you on a couple of streams ago. I said that the reality is we probably have till around Christmas time to persuade Pep Guardiola to stay. We probably have till around Christmas time to pitch it to him or to... I don't know what they do in these situations. I don't know how they convince a manager like Pep Guardiola to continue. I don't know how they've convinced him to do 9 years. Do you know what I'm saying? When he first signed in 2016, it was like, wow, we're going to have Pep Guardiola for 2, 3, 4 years, whatever the initial contract was. And now we're sitting here, you know, edging towards our 9th season of Pep Guardiola. And I'm like, wow, the club has done an amazing job to keep Pep Guardiola. But if you think about the situation, people, there is a different feeling around him coming towards the end of this contract than there was previous contracts. If you remember correctly, people, as we were edging closer towards the end of his last contract, the kind of year before, or, you know, building up to the end of that contract, there was polar opposite reports to what we're getting now. It was, there's an air of confidence, or City are increasingly confident that they can tie Pep Guardiola down to a new contract. City are feeling very optimistic about getting Pep on a new contract. The feeling within the club is that Pep will sign a new contract. You know, these kind of things, and then we get the bum. He signed the new contract. Whereas this time it's different. This time it's feeling different. This time it feels ominous. It feels ominous. It feels like we're moving towards an impending exit of Pep Guardiola. So I'm just comparing this situation to previous situations. It may be absolutely irrelevant, maybe absolute horseshit to compare this one with the last one. You know what I'm saying? They're human beings at the end of the day. Maybe we will get in 2 months, 2 weeks, Pep will go, I'm staying. Pep goes, I want to stay. I genuinely thought when I was watching that parade that we were going to get a Pep extension announcement, because Natalie Pike, when she was interviewing him, was like something about how long we've had him for, and what more can we expect, something along those lines. I don't know the quote off the top of my head, and I actually, for 1 second in my head, I thought they had scripted this as the moment Pep is going to announce he's staying, and he didn't. Of course, he didn't. It didn't happen, but it's a lot of hope. You know what I mean? It's a lot of hope. We don't know. All we can do is hope. And the big one, really, people, is exactly what Joe said. The big one is when he goes to Abu Dhabi. He goes to Abu Dhabi at the end of every season with Khaldoon. He meets Sheikh Mansour. I'm pretty sure it's every season. It generally is at the end of every season. And they probably have a season review together, and they discuss how well they've done, and they pat each other in the back, and so on and so forth. The big one now, the big conversation for the Sheikh and Khaldoon to have with Pep in Abu Dhabi this summer will be, how can we get him to sign a new contract? How can we convince Pep to sign a new contract? How do we make him comfortable enough in the new contract if it is to happen? And I said to you the other day, Joe, that if Pep is to sign a new contract, I believe it would be with the agreement and the acceptance that he's free to leave kind of whenever he wants. He doesn't have to see out the remainder of whatever new contract he signs. That's if he signs a new contract. So it's really difficult to judge people. We're talking about the greatest manager in English football history, in my personal opinion, and whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to go. Like, I already see Arsenal fans in the chat saying, you're right. The news of Pep potentially leaving in 2025 gives us a massive boost. It's going to affect the landscape of football throughout England. You're going to have everyone feeling like the playing field has just suddenly become a lot more level. The hope and optimism and belief amongst the fan bases that would, normally be competing with us is ever higher than it was before. It's going to change everything, and City need to be tactical with how they allow this groundbreaking news to surface, and how quickly it's allowed to affect everybody else. So as we're kind of speculating here, is this the beginning of the drip feeding process? Are we going to get at the beginning of the season in August confirm this will be Pep's last season, or still no movement? The longer we go on with this process of still no movement, still no agreement, still no nothing, the more and more you should start to come to terms with the fact that he's probably going to leave. That's just the reality. You know what I'm saying? I would have thought by now we would have a fair indication if he's going to sign. I would have thought by now we'd have a fair idea if he's going to sign. I liked the noises from Mike Keegan. I liked them. But I also made it clear that at the end of the day, it's what he wants. It's what he wants. It's not what we want. It's not what Joe wants. It's not what any of you in the chat want. It's what Pep Guardiola wants. And if Pep Guardiola says 2025 is my year, I arrived in 2016. He owes us nothing. He owes us absolutely nothing. He came, he saw, he conquered, he delivered everything he said he would. He delivered every expectation and more. He hit every single milestone, overcame every barrier that was put in front of him. You can't really argue with him if he decides he wants to leave in 2025. And we can't be gutted that he didn't do 10 or he didn't sign that long-term extension that some of us kind of had hope for. It's just the reality of where we're at, I suppose, Joe.
And you just have to accept it. Have to accept it. There's no other way. I mean, it's his decision. He's earned the right to make the decision himself. He's always, again, it's another thing. He's always spoke at the end of the season on his when it comes to his future. The thing that he's always leaned towards is, as long as the club want me and they're happy with me, I will stay. I heard that this time. I heard that this time. That's not been said. She's basically said, look, I'm closer to leaving this time than I ever have been. Like, I'm closer to leaving. It's not, as long as they want me, I'm here. It's, no, there's a reality that I leave very soon. Like, that's different. Every single noise that we've heard on this situation is different. So again, don't completely disregard the situation. Don't completely disregard the article just because you don't like it and you have a feeling that it makes sense for him to stay. Just because you can't see a reason looking from the outside in as to why he should want to leave doesn't mean that there isn't one. You're not him. You don't know what's going through his head. I don't know what's going through his head on most fucking match days, right? He's an absolute psycho. So how am I supposed to know what's going through his head when it comes to him wanting to stay or leave? Like, just because you go, he's got all these world-class players, he's got the backing of the board, they want him to stay, we want him to stay, why would he want to leave? Maybe he just does. Maybe he just does. There isn't a reason. He just feels like he wants to do that. Again, you're not going to know that because you're not him. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Just because, again, outside looking in, it looks all rosy and perfect, doesn't mean that he's going to stay. Doesn't mean that he should stay. Doesn't mean that he's going to want to stay. And I see this one, I think he put it about 3 times, this one chat from Sparks Fly. Could they speak because of the 115 charges, jumping off sinking ship? I think that's the opposite, personally. I think the only thing he's got left to prove is his innocence. The club's innocence. To prove that what he won was totally fair, totally within the rules, and totally legit. I think it's the opposite. I think that because obviously the noise that we've been hearing about the charges is that, near future, by the end of this year, I think I can't remember who said it, that it was going to be the sort of November time again. I don't actually know when this is going to be, but that's the only thing that I can think of that he is waiting for these charges to be dropped, to prove that he did everything legit and there's no cloud hanging over all of his time here. I think if he leaves before that, he's still going to have that, black cloud hanging over his head of, well, he was under investigation, his club was, charged 115 times. That's still the only thing left to go to prove that he's done all this. And even then, we think he's innocent and we don't actually care because we've seen it all happen. But in terms of the wider footballing world, that's all that's left.